This week's episode is sponsored by the year's most harrowing indie thriller, Pins and Needles. What should have been an uneventful ride back to campus unexpectedly becomes a nightmare as Max, a diabetic biology student, is entrapped in a diabolical New Age wellness experiment. With her insulin supply dwindling, Max is forced into a deadly game of cat and mouse where she must escape at all costs. Starring Ginny and George's Chelsea Clark and Fear Street prom queen's Damian Romero. Available now on Amazon and Apple TV.
You have to control yourself!
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking, you spent 2,000 years looking for a tub of snot. We're talking dingle dorks. And we're talking, come on down to Ooze City and let's get sticky. And I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace, and we're talking, welcome to my nightmare, but not the nightmare you're probably expecting.
Well, maybe it depends on your relationship with this here property.
This property, yes, everyone. We are covering Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, as clued in last week by Joe, the favor I called in this week.
Yes, I was joking with our special guest for this episode offline that you and I have a tendency to each get one sort of like non-vetoable pick for the year, and this is the one that you chose. But I guess happy 30th anniversary to this movie.
Movie in quotes. I mean, I still enjoyed this movie quite a bit, but calling it a movie is a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a movie of a TV show that is for kids.
Yes, and as you, I'm assuming, have no connection to Power Rangers in any shape.
I do, actually. I do.
Really? Oh, I'm excited to hear this. Okay, well then before we get into that, let me introduce our special guest then. So,
okay.
Everyone, he is the host of Evolution of Horror, a podcast that explores the history of the horror genre from silent cinema to modern classics via different subgenres. You may also remember him from our episode on Friday the 13th, Part 2. Please welcome back Mike Muncer.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me here to discuss this absolute masterpiece. I can't wait.
So, Mike, remind me, how old are you?
I am 37. I was born in 1987. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are around the same age. I'm 36. I was born in 89, so we were probably about a year or two apart in grade school. But yeah, I also feel like I have to thank you, because I feel like I broached this the idea of covering this a couple years ago when you were on the show. And you were like, oh my God, you have to cover it. And that's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Just that little bit of extra incentive.
I love it. I'm so glad that you guys have. I had to actually ask Joe earlier off mic and remind myself. I was like, remind me why you're covering this movie again on your horror podcast. But I'm very glad that you are.
It's your fault. No, but truthfully, I mean, look, yes, everyone, is it a stretch that we're covering this in a horror podcast? Yes. But I would argue, and I'm going to posit this, Ivan Ooze is Freddy Krueger for children.
Yes.
And the last act is a big kaiju fight, which admittedly is what the show does as well in all their third acts. But I mean, hey, that's Japanese horror.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's giant monsters, it's creatures, it's got horror elements for kids for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we nearly dispose of every adult in town by having them die by suicide.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, that is a bit dark, but the film never treats it with as much gravity as it maybe demands.
And that's why I kind of stuck with programming this, because I do remember I was 6 when this came out. And I remember I was so excited. Like, you know, I was a kid when I saw this trailer, because I didn't read newspapers. I didn't know. So I saw the TV spot for this movie, and I remember running into my parents' room, like basically reciting the trailer to them, completely with ending with like, coming soon to a theater near you, and not realizing that was like an advertising promo. And my parents just laughed at me. I didn't know why. But I remember going to see this, and on the way, because my sister was 2 years younger than me, they were a bit hesitant because a lot of the reviews were pointing out how it might be too intense for children. And I remember my parents specifically telling me, like, oh yeah, Ivan Ooze goes after the parents in this movie, and that makes it scarier. And so I was like steeling myself for something very scary when I saw this movie.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But, okay, well, so that's my story. Mike, let's get yours, then we'll go to Joe. But Mike, did you grow up watching Power Rangers?
I did. I guess we were the exact right kind of age in a way, right? Because this show, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which started about, 93? At least it did here in the UK.
93, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would have been like 7 years old, something like that. And
that's the perfect age for
absolutely perfect, right? Because this show was dumb. I mean, it was not a good show. It's like, it's not one of those kids' classics, I think, where you can revisit it as an adult and still enjoy it. Like, apart from, for nostalgic reasons, And I watch it now and I think, oh my God, what did we all see in this show? Like, it's a bit of a mess, but I loved it. It clearly did something right because I was obsessed. It was it aired here in the UK every Saturday morning. I was there. It was appointment television for me. I was obsessed with it. I was so excited at the news that there was going to be a movie. So I was absolutely like first in line with my parents to watch this movie in 1995. I owned all of the toys, those amazing like Megazord toys.
Oh my God.
I mean, the reason the show exists is to sell toys.
Right. And it really worked on me. I had to have all of them.
Oh yeah, I 100% had the Falcon from this movie, and I remember like the missiles you could shoot. It acted like a gun. You could shoot the missiles out of its wings. Oh my God, like just amazing. Good. Joe, though, this is news to me. What is your connection to Power Rangers?
Okay, so what's interesting is, yes, I am a couple of years older than both of you, so I was well outside of the target demographic, but I had a cousin who was several years younger, like 3 or 4 years younger than me, who came to live with my family. There was like some family stuff, so he just needed to come and stay with us for like 3/4 of a year, and he was obsessed with this show. So it suddenly became this sort of regular fixture where, of course, I had no previous relationship with it. And it's funny that you posited, Mike, like, why did people become obsessed with it? And I think part of it is this idea that if you are a good boy or girl, because, of course, we're speaking only in binaries in the mid-90s, this idea that you yourself could become a Power Ranger, you could inherit the power and you could go and protect the world and like have this secret castle or mansion or whatever the fuck this thing is where Zordon hangs out.
Where is that, by the way?
Apparently within walking distance of the town. But I just think it's like this interesting fantasy wish fulfillment, like this idea that you could become the chosen one if you're a good enough boy or girl.
Yeah. I think we all wanted to be Power Rangers when we were kids,
Sure.
And every boy wanted to be the White Ranger or the Green Ranger, and every girl, every girl wanted to be the Pink Ranger. Every gay boy wanted to be the Pink Ranger.
Yeah, I think it definitely has that thing where I kind of liken it to the Spice Girls, right? Where you've got your own favorite out of these 5 or 6. Everyone had one that they could maybe relate to, whether they were the nerdy kid or they were the more athletic kid or whatever it might be. They're almost like Breakfast Club stereotypes, these kids, right? But it's an interesting kind of melting pot of stuff that kids were into. You've got these kind of Japanese kind of kaiju martial arts stuff, and that was quite popular at the time. Then you've got the kind of Breakfast Club, Saved by the Bell-esque kind of 90s, bubblegum teen stuff going on. And I think, all of that kind of put together with giant monsters and creatures and that kind of thing. It was like, it just felt like the perfect recipe for kids of the 90s at the time. Yeah.
Well, but I guess, because this franchise is still going on today.
Right.
Okay.
Like, this is like a Pokemon type thing. And, I've told on this podcast that during the pandemic, like, I went back and I, like, rewatched Pokemon, but then also, like, caught up on, like, all 1,000 plus episodes of Pokemon, and I found them watchable. I don't think I could do that with this show. Even though it's a show, though, where, like, they stick to continuity.
Yeah, but also it's as far as I can remember, the same thing that happens every single week, right?
Wow.
I mean, like, it was like whoever is the villain, tries to kill the Power Rangers with a monster. They start to beat the monster. The monster then turns giant. They have to call on the Zords. There's a giant monster versus robot hitting each other, and then it ends, right? And it's like that every week.
But Mike, okay, like, so I did not do a huge deep dive into the history of Power Rangers because I was like, this is 30 years of shit I can't do. But like, just Rita Repulsa, like, I was like, okay, so at some point, like, Rita Repulsa became purified. She became some hot lady, and then she went off. But then she came back and she was helping the Rangers. And then at some point, like, the evil that was pulled out of her was merged with Alpha 5, and then it became Robo Yellow Rita. I was like, what the fuck is going on in this show? So, I mean, yes, the formula week to week is the same, but there are definitely season-long arcs that continue across the series over 30 years.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I remember very clearly my favorite kind of arc, and I think it was from the very first season, was when the Green Ranger was introduced. He was like the bad ranger, right?
Yep.
And then he had a kind of redemption arc and he turned good, but he was a bit shady. And like that stuff I remember finding really interesting. The kind of, and he constantly flipped from good to bad. Yeah.
Okay, so that's actually when my cousin was introducing me to the show, was when the Green Ranger kind of exploded onto the scene, because everything you're describing, I'm like, I think I've seen that.
Right. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah.
But I will say, Trace, it's wild that you say that there is not just continuity, but also kind of arcs and progression for these characters. Because I will say, as somebody who doesn't have a very fixed tie to this property, my biggest complaint about this film is that the kids are indistinguishable from one another, apart from, yes, they have different colors, but there's no characterization and there's no arc for any of them.
100%.
And I think it's a 1995 phenomenon. This is before we started making kids movies that could also really distinctly appeal to adults. So it just feels so straightforward and simple. Like, I was joking with the two of you offline that this episode could be regular 2 hours, or it could be 45 minutes, because it's just going to be, and then they fight, and then they go to this other planet, and then they fight, and then it's over.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, because so many reviews were like, parents, you know you're going to have to take your kids to see this movie. And I'm just going to say right now, maybe I'm biased because I like the show and the movie, but like, as a parent, I would rather go see the Power Rangers movie, which has cool fight scenes and shit, than like, I don't know, Bluey the movie.
Very different titles, but yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but adults like Bluey, don't they? They appreciate the writing, I think. That's the thing, whereas you cannot appreciate the writing of the Power Rangers.
I mean, look, I want to say 90% of the dialogue in this movie is one-liners.
Yeah.
It's a lot of one-liners.
Conversations are minimal.
Which really does not help these characters stand out in any kind of meaningful way, which maybe, I don't know, Trace. I wonder if that's the reason why you have a kind of fond memory, or you remember so much about Ivan Ooze, is because he is the only person who really pops in this film.
100%. And I mean, it's the thing I was telling Joey, I remembered everything from this movie, but I think it's because, though, I mean, this movie is written for children. Like, this is an easy movie for kids to remember because of all these one-liners. This is not a complex film, and it is kind of like the worst idea when you think of, a movie version of a children's television show where it's just a 90-minute version of a TV episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right about those characters as well. You know, I seem to remember, Trace, the three of these Power Rangers were new, right? They were replacements for ones that were previously on the show. And I remember the original versions being a bit more interesting and a bit more distinct, but maybe I'm just remembering that romantically.
Well, that might be because Zach the Black Ranger was black and Trini the Yellow Ranger was Asian. Like, so maybe like that's why they did it.
I was definitely like, okay, I'm concerned about some of this. I mean, there's definitely one plot. I'm going to once again use air quotes. There's a plot point where people get their spirit animal, and I just wrote in my notes, oh, yikes. Let's maybe not say we did.
Okay, but this is all a good segue, because so the weird thing about this movie is it actually does pick up where season 2 of the show ends, but then season 3 of the show ignores the events of this movie and gives Rangers their ninjetti powers via a completely other episode. And I was like, that's really weird. So apparently it was because, though, they had the stock footage from the Super Sentai, the Japanese show, and so they wanted to use that. But here we go. So, yes, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, it's an adaptation of the Japanese TV and film franchise Super Sentai, which began in 1975 and is still going on today.
Wow.
Now, just to give you an idea of how popular Power Rangers was, premiered in August of 93, became the top-rated children's television series in just 3 weeks, remaining as such through July of 94, amassing 45% of the total viewing audience from ages 6 to 11.
Holy cow.
Additionally, it achieved an average of 3.5 million young viewers on weekdays and 4.3 million viewers on Saturday mornings, the first children's series to reach such ratings that high since the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 years prior.
A better show.
Well, yes, it is a better show. Now, the original Power Rangers series lasted for 3 seasons of 145 episodes total. And
oh my God, what is that, like 50 episodes per season?
Yeah,
Basically,
they just went on forever, those seasons.
well, it's because though they were airing Monday through Friday. It wasn't just always like Saturday, or I guess maybe if it's one a week, one Saturday every day of the year, every week of the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this movie comes out between seasons 2 and 3, and just a primer on the show, the basic gist, unless you saw the 2017 Power Rangers film, which I'm just going to say, I like that movie. I think it's fun.
It's fun. It's really fun. Yeah.
But basically, 2 astronauts find an alien container on the moon called the Dumpster and open it, releasing an evil alien sorceress named Rita Repulsa and her minions from 10,000 years of imprisonment. She decides to conquer the nearest planet, which just so happens to be Earth. This alerts Zordon, the being responsible for trapping Rita in the first place, and asks his robot assistant Alpha 5 to select, and I quote, 5 teenagers with attitude.
Where is it? I'm still looking.
To defend the planet. Each episode would just be Rita releasing a monster into the town of Angel Grove, California. I have very specific memories of a giant pig monster that ate everything and a lipstick monster. But the Power Rangers would dispatch it. A third of the way into the first season, Tommy was introduced as the Green Ranger as a brainwashed teenage agent of Rita. He was supposed to be, I guess, her sleeper cell into the group.
Right.
The Rangers eventually freed him from his brainwashing. He later becomes the White Ranger during season 2, which saw the introduction of Lord Zed, who I'm going to say is a Hellraiser character for children.
Yes. And also like a queer icon because he's serving leather daddy looks.
Yes, that's right. It's Hellraiser. I don't know if the show did this, but the movie definitely has his brain pulsating when he's on screen.
Wow, I love that.
But he was Rita's superior who imprisons Rita yet again because he's pissed at her. So here we go. It was around this time that Jason the Red Ranger, Zach the Black Ranger, and Trini the Yellow Ranger are booted from the show due to contract disputes. They wanted to unionize the production because the TV show wasn't unionized and was thus subject to bad working conditions and very unfair pay, which I will get into in a minute.
Oh, interesting. So it's an early version of Quiet on Set, aka Nickelodeon.
Yes, just without sexual assault.
Well, perks for everything then.
Yeah, but they were replaced with Rocky, Adam, and Aisha as the Red, Black, and Yellow Rangers respectively. So season 2 ends with Rita escaping her prison again, giving herself a special makeover, replacing the actress with a younger and prettier actress.
Weird.
And then she uses a love potion on Zed to get him to marry her, and that's how we enter the film.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Now, the show garnered a lot of controversy during its run, as it began airing before TV ratings, like TVYA, Y7 or whatever, became a thing. Mm-hmm. So its influence on children's violence was all over the news, and this was wild. So the show was even suspended in Scandinavia for a while following the death of 5-year-old Silja Redegard. She was killed by 2 other boys, a 5 and a 6-year-old boy, beaten and stoned to death, with many people believing the violence in Power Rangers helped influence them.
Wow.
This seems like a scapegoating thing. I don't think...
Well...
This crime was very violent.
We've heard this story before, have we not? See also Columbine, see also all these other things. Media definitely has an impact on people, but you're 100% right, Trace. It's always a scapegoat.
Yeah. Now... Again, these work conditions, they were not great. Non-union production, so the cast, they had low pay, long hours, unfair contracts, and a hostile work environment. And despite the show's massive success, they didn't receive royalty payments for reruns of episodes in which they starred. They did not get a cut of any of the merchandise, which was estimated to be about $1 billion.
Yeah, that's where you're going to make all your money, so...
Mm-hmm. And Austin St. John, who portrayed the original Red Ranger Jason, said he could have made more money working the checkout line at McDonald's than what he made working on Power Rangers, hence the aforementioned contract disputes and desire to unionize the production.
Yeah, I mean, it basically sounds like a sweatshop masquerading as a television show.
Yeah, well, and it's also a thing where, because the only new footage they're filming are the scenes with the kids in human form, without their suits, because all the footage with the Rangers fighting is directly taken from Super Sentai. That was already filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. And again, you're not aware of this when you're like a 6-year-old watching it.
No, of course not.
You watch it now and you go, oh my God, this is so clearly just dubbed footage from a completely different show, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Rita is dubbed in this movie, obviously, because it is not well done.
Oh, all the voices are dubbed for every single villain except for Ivan Ooze.
Yeah. Okay, so now for the production of this film. Now, I went to the Wikipedia. There was very little information. There is a Shout Factory Blu-ray release of this film that is now out of print.
What? Shout Factory?
Shout
Doing the
Factory.
weirdest shit?
It's out of print and selling for $99, so I did not buy that.
Cheapskate.
But there is a 45-minute making-of documentary that I also couldn't find. So I was like, oh, what am I going to find for this movie? Lo and behold, there is a 17-page document called The Original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Movie Fact File that was written originally for a blog for the film's art department electrician Paul Matthews. He posted this in 2015. The blog is no longer active, but you can still find PDFs of it online. And this is 17 pages condensed into about a page. So,
okay.
So, driven by an unstoppable publicity phenomenon throughout the US in early 94, like, they were going to make a movie of this, and they wanted it done immediately. So, I guess they said, okay, we're going to release this in June of 95, and they really wanted to stick to that date. And, Joe, how often does that work out?
Oh, always the best. Set the date first and then make the product. A+ results every time.
So Matthew says that the production of this film, at least the pre-production, was very unusual because the film had succeeded in essentially, quote-unquote, jumping the queue that normally precedes big-budget production. So the desire was to produce a high-quality product very, very fast.
Those are two things that don't go together.
Exactly. So, chosen to direct the film was Bryan Spicer in his feature directorial debut. He's not really a big name. He would go on to direct films like McHale's Navy and the Tim Allen, Kirstie Alley movie For Richer or Poorer, where they're Amish.
So comedies.
Basically, yeah. But it was he who convinced Fox to try using CGI for the third act of the film instead of the initially planned model city with suited actors like the TV show.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I mean, for this alone, he should be working with Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley.
However, the short history of the project quickly caught up. There's a studio space in the US or even in Canada capable of commencing the project on such short notice. And to add to the complications, they had also been informed by Saban Entertainment, the producers of the show, that the only period in which the original hero actors, and they called like the people we see hero actors, and then the stunt doubles and the suits the ranger actors.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the only period in which the hero actors were available to work were within November and December of 1994.
Oh, God. And they're trying to make a June 1995 release date.
Yes. So they selected Sydney, Australia as their main filming location, which at this point, Australia didn't really have like a burgeoning film industry, but apparently this film did help like more sites come to this continent. But the problem remained, though, they still had no studios in Sydney to film this movie. So, in a 4-week period, August 15th through September 15th of 94, took place what was apparently the fastest talking and deal-making that had ever been seen in the industry, which involved booking sound stages, setting up a new production company, leasing and setup of a nearby office, hiring a crew of 80 personnel, and constructing the sets for Zordon's command center and Zed's palace, all in the span of 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Production officially began on October 31st, 1994, and 2 huge problems happened that drastically fucked with this production.
Okay.
First, it was decided by Spicer and company that the total covering of the Rangers' faces with their visors removed any ability to express emotion. So, they filmed much of the movie with the hero actors in costume and no visors on the helmets at all.
Oh, dear. That'll come back to bite them in the ass.
Oh, yes. By mid-November, it had become clear to Spicer and his team that this was a ghastly mistake because the dailies looked horrible. And something was very wrong. The speed at which the production was set up had taken its toll. You know, the lack of pre-production time, the lack of experimentation and consultation had resulted in this disaster. And then they decided, shit, we have to scrap all of this and start from scratch.
Yeah, so you've lost all that time.
The decision was made to replace the Morph Rangers with stunt doubles. This came in mid-November, and this was so both filming units could be kept busy filming at the same time. Because, honestly, I think the third act of this movie is just filmed by its own entire crew of people, because none of the hero actors are really even in this third act.
Yeah.
Second, and this is the one I didn't know, hours before her first set call, actress Gabrielle Fitzpatrick, who plays Dulcea in the film, was diagnosed with an ovarian cyst, which required an operation for immediate removal. And in an amazing 11th hour casting change, Mariska Hargitay replaced her.
What? She's not in this movie.
Oh, Production then commenced on the Dulcea parts with the hero actors the following day. And they shot with her for 4 weeks, to which I say, why are you shooting with this character for 4 weeks when she's barely in the movie for 5 minutes? But
Truly.
the dailies told a tale of woe. While Hargitay looked the part because she was like built, like she had a female built figure, apparently her performance was not up to snuff. She just, and I quote, didn't cut it as the master warrior of Phaedos.
So she didn't have the Barbarella vibe down pat, like
Thank
what we
you.
get in this movie.
Yes, 100% Barbarella!
Yeah.
But here's the thing. On December 20th, only 2 days after the Ranger visor issue had been dealt with, Hargitay was removed from the film, and the entire 4 weeks of footage shot with her and the Rangers was cut out. So,
Oh my God, so we're starting again.
between that and the visor debacle, this meant that by this time, more than 70% of the footage they had shot had been unusable.
Okay,
God.
question. I don't know if you're going to clarify. Has any of this ever leaked? Have you ever found what they look like without the visor or Hargitay on set?
I've seen pictures of Hargitay. I didn't see pictures without the visors.
Okay.
But yes, you can Google Hargitay Power Rangers and it will pull up a picture of her in full Dulcea regalia.
Interesting. Okay.
But this meant that the original end date of Christmas Day was not going to be met.
Oh, shit.
So they essentially just started over, and bear in mind, we're still having to meet this release date of June 30th, 1995.
Oh my God, just back it up. Give them a couple more months.
Well, but you don't want this children's phenomenon to go away. What if you release the film a year after it's not popular anymore?
I guess.
So, director Spicer and the producers went away to rewrite the script, taking into account the unusable footage, as well as taking advantage to work in a number of new ideas made possible by Fox's backing of the project, particularly the bone dinosaur scene. That wasn't in the original plan for this film.
No shit. It's an action set piece that has no bearing on the rest of the film.
But here's the thing, though. The hero actors had to hit the camera in January for the show, so...
Oh my God, these poor kids.
Saban Entertainment had no choice but to remove a good chunk of filming of the show to Sydney to allow for all of this. And apparently in the show continuity, they went to Australia to go for some, I want to say a karate championship or gymnastics, because all these kids... None of them were actors. They were all plucked out of gymnastics studios and martial arts studios in Texas.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
The good news is, though, by this time, Gabrielle Fitzpatrick had recovered from her operation and was able to return to the role.
Oh, what a happy accident then.
Oh my God.
Apparently, the January shoot went much more smoothly, albeit not necessarily smooth. And it incorporated what was believed to be the largest scale use of green screen technology for a feature film. Oh, I didn't know this. Okay, so remember, before green screen, it was blue screen, but they couldn't use blue screen because of the Blue Ranger.
Of course.
Oh.
And so they basically had to decide, we had to use blue screen and lose the Blue Ranger, or we use
Bye,
green
Billy.
screen, or we use green screen and lose the Green Ranger. So that is why, in the continuity of the show, the Green Ranger becomes the White Ranger.
No shit.
I'm not even kidding.
That is,
That
oh
is
my
too
God,
funny.
that's blown my mind. Oh my God.
I mean, it's kind of hysterical.
It's just because of green screen. Okay, and those episodes, by the way, with the Green Ranger becoming the White Ranger, aired in mid-October 1994, just 2 weeks before the initial production of the film began.
Wow. Okay.
The only real addition to the cast in this film is the new villain Ivan Ooze, played by famed British stage actor Paul Freeman, who most film viewers will know as René Belloc, the main antagonist in Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark. The role required him to sit in the makeup chair for 4.5 hours each day and apply prosthetics, and like the show, working conditions were questionable.
Great.
After a week or so, his skin began to erupt, so they had to program in rest days where he didn't work. Add to the fact that there were often 22-hour workdays on set with him in prosthetics for all of them.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. That leaves you 2 hours a day to sleep or do something else.
I'm also thinking, taking the prosthetics off. How long does that take?
Maybe that's factored in to the 22.
Yeah, maybe. But still, this interview from 1995, he said he had fun, and he tried to inject a lot of different characters into Ivan. His go-to influences were the American vaudeville comedian W.C. Fields, as well as Bugs Bunny. But I maintain there's a lot of Freddy's Dead Freddy Krueger in his performance in this movie.
For sure. The laugh, right? It's a very Freddy laugh. He does a lot of kind of Dr. Evil laughing in this, and there is something quite Freddy Krueger-like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, when he gets serious, you know, like his voice goes really deep like this, but then when he's being funny, he's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie was made for a budget of $18 million initially, but supposedly ballooned after that. But I don't know what it ballooned to.
I mean, they had to reshoot 70% of the film. It absolutely ballooned.
Yeah. But the reported budget is anywhere from $15 to $20 million. So I don't have a final budget for you, but it opens June 30th, 1995, against fellow newcomers Apollo 13 and Judge Dredd. This was surprising to me, landing in the number 4 spot with $13.1 million. So it goes on to gross $38 million domestically and another $28 million overseas for a worldwide gross of $66 million. But doesn't that seem a little low for like the biggest children's show phenomenon at the time?
Yeah, it does. I would have thought it would be a lot more than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe this is one of the early benchmarks, like when we think about transforming a popular children's show into a movie. I wonder if they looked at this and said, okay, it's got to be a bit better than this because this was the most popular show. And that number does seem lower than I would have expected.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even know if this film broke even, honestly. It doesn't sound... Well, I guess it broke even, but I don't think it was much of a success, which is why we get Turbo, the sequel movie, a couple years later, and that movie made $9 million.
Oh, wow. But that was much more, at least it was over here, like a kind of straight-to-video movie as well. Like, I don't even think it got a theatrical release here in the UK.
It definitely went to theaters here. I was out of Power Rangers at the time that came out, but I have been informed, and I love this, that the villain of that film is Diva Tox.
Amazing.
So what you're saying is that there's queerness baked into this franchise. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it is. Yes, absolutely.
That was your cue, Trace. The actor who plays the Blue Ranger is queer.
Well, literally that was my segue. But
I gave it to you. I set you up.
No. But so before I pass it off to you, Joe, this is what I wanted to end on because I didn't want to like curtail the production with this. But another reason is yes, David Yost, aka Billy the Blue Ranger, is queer, and despite being the last of the original Rangers to leave the show in Power Rangers Zeo in 1996, he went through a lot of homophobic abuse from the crew, not the cast. He's never calmed down on the cast for this. So it got so bad that he even underwent conversion therapy, albeit and obviously unsuccessfully. In a 2010 interview, he said there was one day where he just walked off the set because he was called the F slur one too many times.
Oh, man.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And here's the shitty thing. And I debated even bringing this up because I'm like, no one replied to this and I kind of hate that. But producer Scott Page Pachter, who is now deceased, released a statement to TMZ shortly after Yost's comments on this. And
yay, TMZ. This is going to be great.
He said that Yost left over a bonus to his pay that ceased when 2 other actors with the same bonus quit the series. I'm assuming this is Kimberly and Tommy, which I gotta say also it's really sad because Jason David Frank did die by suicide 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, so he lost the bonus, and he also said that no one, including any of the cast members, got along with him because he was, a quote-unquote, a pain in the ass. But he didn't elaborate on the identities of the other 2 actors' bonuses, and he didn't say why Yost was hard to work with, or dispute any of Yost's claims outside of the reasons for leaving the show. But the fact that he also said, none of the cast got along with him, and I didn't see any cast members responding to this either. Maybe it was a case of, we're not going to give this asshole the time of day because it's TMZ, but I did find that a little weird.
That's disappointing, for sure.
Really horrible, yeah.
So all that's going on, I'm assuming still during this movie. I mean, I'm assuming he was undergoing, a lot of F-slurs and homophobia, throughout the entire production of the show and the film. Maybe less so in the film because I'm assuming it was a different crew, but still, ugh.
Yeah, grody.
Yeah. But that's
okay. So on that happy note,
I know.
Jesus. All right. Okay. Well, let's step through this, shall we? So, for the uninitiated, we open with a scroll of exposition that explains how Zordon created these 6 heroes, and they have robots called Zords and all this other stuff. And then we get the title, and the title explodes.
Which is fun. It's really hard to overstate like how awesome this was as a child watching this in the theater.
Yeah, it was. It was so exciting.
Well, there's just something about transitioning from, I watched this at home on the small screen, because let's face it, like when this is airing, we're talking about those giant TVs that, if they fell on you, they could kill you if you were a child because they're so big and heavy. And then you get to do like a day trip to the cinema and watch these characters on the big screen. Like, it's a big deal for a kid.
Also, the suits are totally upgraded. Like, these are plastic looking suits, but they are not the
janky ones?
The Spirit Halloween ones that they were wearing over in Super Sentai.
There we go. Okay. So our introduction to the Power Rangers is them skydiving, complete with plenty of aerial tricks. And this, to me, feels like the biggest glow up from a TV show where, there's absolutely no reason why they need to be skydiving except to introduce the fact that there is a comet coming in 2 days. But you could do that without actually having them do all of these stunts in the air. So it feels like, this is a big movie. We need to open it with something exciting and grand.
Isn't it funny as well how all of them, even, they're supposed to be, they're supposed to have secret identities as superheroes, right? And
it makes no sense.
I'm sorry. They go around in a pack of 6 and each of them constantly only ever wears their color, right? Like, it's like, did nobody think, what about those 6 kids that are all really good at martial arts and gymnastics that wear nothing but pink, yellow, red, black, green? Like,
And bear in mind, too, we're putting kids in quotation marks because these are not teenagers.
Oh, my God. Yeah. They're 90s teenagers, right? I.e., they're 30. Yeah.
I would say, having watched a lot of YA content, these kids look more kiddish than a lot of other titles that I've seen. So, like, I would have gently fought you on that if you two didn't know better. Which is me saying I'm wrong, but like as an outsider, I looked at this and thought, yeah, they're probably 17 or 18, and I think they're meant to be playing about 15.
I think they look older than 17 or 18.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just too distanced from it. I also love that Bulk and Skull flat out opened the plane door while not wearing parachutes, so like they could have just been killed.
Yeah. So Skull is played by Jason Narvey and Bulk is played by Paul Schreer, and they are our comic relief for this film. I will admit, I thought we were going to get a lot more of these characters, and it's kind of surprising that we use them so judiciously in this film.
Mike, I'm curious for you, as a former fan of this show, because I agree with you, I was disappointed with that, but I think the biggest disappointment for me as a fan when I was a kid was that Rita and Zed are barely in this movie.
Yeah, I think that is a shame because the villains were always quite fun in this show, and I guess the point is Ivan Ooze becomes the star really here, so they've got to find something to do with those others. But it is a bit of a shame, I think. Yeah, for sure.
It's the camp factor. Like, the villains are the camp of this series.
Right.
Absolutely. I read this as we need to have a villain that we can get rid of by the end of the film that doesn't affect the continuity of the TV show. Because you don't want to eliminate Rita Repulsa or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So you've just got to put them away to one side for the bulk of the film, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
In a snow globe.
Snow globe.
Because, of course, why wouldn't you? All right, so down in Angel Grove, we have a crowd that has gathered as part of this charity fundraiser in anticipation of a comet that's coming in 2 days. And we are also introduced to who I call in my notes bratty child Fred Kilman, who is played by Jamie Croft. This child sucks. It's just like, get out of here. He's introduced in the film trash-talking his father for not being able to nail a skydiving landing like the Power Rangers. Kid, how about you go over to the park and eat some grass?
I feel like as a kid I identified with this child, but as an adult I wrote my notes. This kid sucks.
This kid sucks. His dad doesn't seem to think so. His dad seems fine with it. I do love that because this is a movie for children, he doesn't even get a first name. He is just Mr. Kelman, played by Peter Mockery.
I have built up a fake backstory because there's no mother in this dynamic. So I'm choosing to believe that this mother is either dead or divorced, and the dad is doing everything he can to make his kid love him.
Sure. Yeah. The mother probably left because this kid sucks so bad.
Yes.
All right, so all 6 of our Rangers hit the landing target, which is great. So I'll walk you through them. We have Yellow Ranger Aisha, who is played by Karen Ashley. We have Black Ranger Adam, who is played by Johnny Young Bosch. We have Red Ranger Rocky, who is played by Stephen Cardenas. We have Blue Ranger Billy, played by, yes, David Yost. And then we have the 2 that actually matter because the other 4 can legitimately fuck off for large portions of this film. So we have Pink Ranger Kimberly, who is Amy Jo Johnson. And then we have White Ranger Billy, Jason David Frank. And I'm not trying to be super facetious. It just feels like it's evident in every frame that the 6 are in that the movie only cares about the pink and white Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I would fully agree with that. It's also because I don't think the show ever did a full romance between Tommy and Kimberly, but this film...
It's here in this film.
Yeah.
I clocked it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I actually find very disappointing about this film, and again, I don't remember if the show did this, but like Kimberly is saved by Tommy.
Oh my God.
So many times. It is really to the point where I'm like, why as a kid did I like her so much? She's not doing anything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And yet she's still more interesting than most of the others, right? On screen. But maybe that's just the actress as well. It's slightly more charismatic. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, these were the 2 fan favorites I remember, right? Even at this point in the show.
Yeah. But I think you're onto something, Mike, though, because I think out of all of these, Amy Jo Johnson's really the only one that got even like a kind of a film career, because she was on Felicity for like 2 or 3 seasons after this. And,
right.
I mean, again, I wouldn't say her career is prolific, but like she's
a legitimate actress.
Yeah, she's a legitimate
The rest
actress.
of them don't go on to do much.
Yeah. So that I think that shows in her. I mean, again, I find her very charismatic. I never really cared for Tommy personally, but it might have been the ponytail.
It's the hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the other interesting thing about this film is that it has a pretty decent soundtrack. So after they do this landing, they then rollerblade around to Free Ride by Dan Hartman. And I looked it up because there's this other weird song, like when they're fighting the ooze man, there's this weird song called like Action Girl and Action Boy. I was like, what is this?
Action boy now, action girl now.
Yes, I don't think that one made it onto the soundtrack, at least not from what I was able to discover, but there's like a bunch of classic rock songs on this soundtrack, which is maybe the most adult appealing thing about this film.
Well, I remember the thing I remember most clearly was the song Trouble by Shampoo, which was very much like it was quite a big deal here in the UK, and I remember it being like the official soundtrack song to this film as well, right?
Yeah. Because it's very much like kids rebelling from their parents. By the way, Action Boy Now, Action Girl Now is called Are You Ready by Devo.
Oh, Devo. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Whip it good. No. Yeah, we've got Red Hot Chili Peppers on here. We've got Snaps the Power. It's actually kind of a banging soundtrack. Not gonna lie. Things I wouldn't have anticipated saying in 2025. Okay, so yes, Skull and Bulk do ultimately make it down from the plane because they were up there with the Power Rangers as well. So I just a default assumed that they know these kids are the Power Rangers.
They don't.
No.
Also,
okay.
It's really fucking with my brain that you're calling them Skull and Bulk. It is very much Bulk and Skull.
Okay, I didn't realize there was a particular order it needed to be said. Anyway, they do not hit the landing pad. They land in a construction site, which exists, like this whole sequence of them landing here is only so that we can introduce this sigil, which has been discovered. And one of the construction employees or construction folks, Dave, who is played by Paul Goddard, who is an Australian. Why would an Australian be in this cast? Clearly, we hired local. So he raises this thing out of the ground with a crane, and it is revealed to be a giant hand clutching a purple egg, which then blasts his colleague John, who is played by Robert Simper, with electricity.
I love the look of this thing.
It's bizarre.
Cool. Yeah.
None of them seem that perplexed by it. They're kind of like, oh, what is this? No one's like, what the fuck is this thing?
Truly, if it was just an egg, I feel like you could maybe mistake it for some kind of fossilized dinosaur or something, or rather. But this is clear, like, it is such a specifically designed. It looks like a fucking art piece, is what I'm trying to say.
Does. It does, absolutely. And the amount of people, the amount of like just electricity that just flies out of things in Power Rangers as well. People just getting zapped by generic electricity all the time.
I do like the choice to make it purple, although I have to believe that the only reason that Ivan Ooze and all this is purple is because there isn't a purple ranger.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
He does have to visually stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of zapping, the kids hop on over to the command center when they get a message from Robot Alpha 5.
By the way, though, they teleport away in broad daylight in the middle of a park.
Yes.
Yeah, they are the worst at being secret, honestly.
Yeah, one of the fun things that I don't remember them doing this from the show. This is like where the gaps in my memory lie. But as soon as they do it, I thought, oh, they kind of look like they're making a little rainbow pride thing in the sky.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they did do this in the show. But again, the show never established, I think, where Zordon's power center was, which is why they always had to warp to him.
Sure.
And this movie will do away with that.
Yes, indeed. It feels like it's about 5 minutes outside of this small California town. Okay, so Alpha 5 is played by Peta Marie Rickson, but voiced by Richard Wood. And when I say voiced, it's just,
Yeah. So annoying. So I mean, even as a kid, I found this character quite irritating, to be honest.
I think he's meant to be, and it's also because Zordon's like the sage, wise figure. Gotta say though, whenever phones gave you the ability to make the Power Rangers like do, well, I will say I got really excited, but then I put it as my ringtone, and then I immediately deleted it because when you get text messages and that is all you hear, it is
super annoying.
Oh my god, you will throw your phone away.
Nice. Yes. Okay. So Alpha clearly works for Zordon, who is portrayed by Nicholas Bell and voiced by Robert L. Manahan. And I don't know. Zordon gives me the creeps. He's a disembodied giant head who seems slightly British, but also a little bit predatory. Like, here's an older man who hangs out with a bunch of young kids and gives them all sorts of power.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of nope here.
Yeah, why is it that he requires teenagers with attitude to save the world?
Zordon, do we need to put you on a list?
Well, also, teenagers with attitude don't give me trustworthy.
Right.
That's the opposite of actually. I want well-behaved, responsible teenagers, not teenagers with attitude.
Can I find 6 teenagers who do their homework and go to school on time? Like, go to bed, regularly brush their teeth. I feel like the movie does a much better job of this. Those kids seem properly juvenile delinquent-y.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's why, because again, like half the time whenever you saw these kids in the show, if I remember correctly, they were always practicing like in the wrestling or like fighting ring of their local gym. And so it's like that whole thing of like, oh, like the honor system of, Taekwondo or karate or Tai Chi or something. Like they have all of that.
That was really weird, by the way. That location isn't in the film, but I was thinking about it because it was like a sort of community center come gym come restaurant or something. Because there was a guy
there was a cafe in it.
Yeah.
Oh, so you could beat the shit out of somebody and then grab a sandwich?
Yeah, so it would have stunk of sweaty teenagers like wrestling, and then there would just be people eating their like burgers and drinking their milkshakes right next to it as well. I just thought that's not hygienic, that place, Yeah.
I don't think places like that exist. So it was made just for the show, really. Because they probably they didn't have more space available.
Right.
Nice. Sounds like a kind of place Zordon would want to hang out.
Yeah, that's why he found them. Yeah.
God. Okay, so Zordon does give them the 411 on Ivan Ooze, who, yes, was imprisoned in the ground 6,000 years ago, and they need to make sure he doesn't get out, or else it's going to be big, big trouble.
Okay, Zordon tells them, though, the ectomorphicons were buried near the chamber, so if he wakes, he's sure to find them. And I'm like, why did
you
they
got an entire globe. Yeah. Spread that shit around.
Like when you murder someone, you're hiding the body, you cut it up into little pieces and like mail it to like 20 different countries, and that's where they go.
Yeah, like remember what we did with the judge on Buffy, where we sliced him up and put him into a bunch of different boxes.
Yep.
Like, this is what you do, folks.
Yeah.
Okay, let's introduce our secondary villains, who of course are the main villains on the TV show. So we have Rita Repulsa, who is played by Julia Cortez and voiced by Barbara Goodson. We have Lord Zed, who is played by Mark Ginther and voiced by Robert Axelrod, as well as Piggy Mordaunt, who is played by Jean-Paul Bell and voiced by Martin G. Metcalf, and then Manticore-like Goldar, who is played by Carrie Casey and voiced by Kerrigan Mahan.
I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but like in that 2017 Power Rangers, we get Goldar, but he's like a giant CGI gold monster.
Oh, yes.
And I remember being like, that's not Goldar.
Yeah. Why is this a new Rita Repulsa actress?
Yes.
Why is she dubbed by someone else then? Like, that's weird, right?
Because it's that thing where in the continuity of the show, so she did a magic spell to make herself younger and more beautiful for her wedding to Zed. And so with that, they recast her. And
Sure.
But then they keep the original voice throughout all of it. And the original voice dub sounds like an older woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
she's
makes sense.
very
Okay.
witchy.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was honestly, frankly, pretty disappointed that we don't get more banter between Rita and Ivan Ooze, because I thought that's what we were kind of setting up.
Mhm.
I didn't remember Lord Zed at all from the show, so I thought that he was just her henchman.
Yeah,
Right,
and that's probably because, I mean, if you were watching during the Green Ranger season, that was season 1. Zed wasn't until season 2, but I also think, like, this design is, I mean, I already commented it's very Hellraiser-y, but this is pretty intense, I think, for a kid's show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I wonder whether audiences missed Rita, because they got rid of her for a bit, replaced her with Zed, and then they had to bring her back, right, and have them team up at some point. Yeah.
Well, because Zed wasn't particularly funny.
Right,
No.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like, this is the kind of show that benefits from having outsized personalities. Like, part of the reason that I made fun of Zordon is because he's so
Serious.
boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the camp factor is very exciting with the villains. And especially if you are a child, I think that's more appealing. Like, you want that mix of comedy and scares.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyway, so our villains come in, they crack the egg, and the ooze transforms into Ivan Ooze, who is played by, yes, Paul Freeman, who Rita immediately notes is so handsome. To which I say, girl, standards.
She's seen. Do you see what she surrounds herself with, though? Like, she doesn't have a lot of options.
I don't know. I feel like of the ones that we have, I'd be climbing Goldar.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
He's got that kind of like warrior vibe and like a cat face. I like cats in that way, but
he's like, because he's sleepwalkers. That's why you like him so much.
oh my God, Trace, come from my childhood sex fantasies.
But it does seem like we're kind of setting up like a pseudo love triangle between Ivan, Rita, and Zed, and we dip into it a little bit. But then as soon as we snow globe them, it's like, oh well, that's gone, and that could have been really fun to watch more of.
Yes, and snow globe them is not a euphemism.
I know. I was like, it's so weird that you mean that literally and not.
Folks, get into snow globing. Actually, you know what? Tell us what you think snow globing would be in terms of a sexual activity.
Right.
Okay, so the Rangers arrive on the scene. They are too late. So Ooze introduces himself. Of course, this is his campy introduction to them. And then he calls up his Oozeman. And in my notes, I just write, Kimberly's dialogue consists of, ew, gross, and calling him Raisinhead.
This is where we get the welcome to my nightmare. I also love when with the Power Rangers, whoo, where's my autograph book?
He's giving Southern gentleman vibes at times too, which I think is why I did the accent slightly twangy in the opening. It's just a very inspired comedic performance.
I genuinely think, like, I enjoyed this movie. I do not think this is a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that Paul Freeman is the best part of this movie in a genuinely fun, entertaining performance.
For sure, yeah, he is. He acts the rest of them off the stage, I think, right? Yeah.
Well, and, famed British actor, like Shakespearean stage actor.
Right? Oh, I bet this was the proudest moment of his career.
I mean, this is one of those things that you do, though, right? Like, you look at it and you say, okay, yeah, I'm going to appear in this children's movie, and I don't need to take it seriously. But it kind of reminds me of how people talk about Michael Caine in the Muppets Christmas Carol, Girl, where it's like he's treating it deadly seriously, or he understands the assignment where it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. It's silly. It's for kids, but also I'm going to have the time of my life. I'm going to sell this.
And he probably got paid more than all 6 kids put together, right?
Oh my God.
I mean, you would hope so.
Yeah.
Because in that interview piece I read with him from '95, he said his film career never really took off. And Steven Spielberg, apparently, when they were filming Raiders of the Lost Ark, told him, like, oh yeah, we're going to bring you back for the sequel. And then that didn't end up happening, obviously, because they did a prequel instead.
Right.
And so I guess Raiders was meant to be his kind of like leap from the stage to the screen, and it just never took off in that way. And so his 2 biggest roles are this and that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get our first big action sequence. So the kids do all sorts of kung fu fighting. We get all kinds of farty sound effects every time they beat these things up.
Do you have a favorite one-liner from any of this? Actually, favorite may be the wrong word. Do you have a worst one-liner in all of this? I think You Ooze, You Lose is pretty lazy.
Oh, God.
That's pretty bad.
I also love, and I forgot how much every single movement has like a whoosh effect, right? Like, yeah.
Right.
And again, I used to have a glove, like a Power Ranger white glove, and when you moved your hand, it made a whoosh noise as well. It had a little battery and speaker in it. It was amazing. Yeah.
I remember the line we always repeated as kids, because I did enter Taekwondo shortly after
because
this,
of this?
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely wanted to fight because of this. I wasn't a sports kid, so I entered like martial arts because of Power Rangers. And once they suit up, Kimberly has she says, "You guys make me sick, 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 sick," and she's like kicking one of them. I did that all the time as a kid.
Nice.
Also, I love that you were such a big fan of Kimberly, because it just reminds me of how people, specifically gay boys, often end up gravitating to like, oh, Peach is the person I always play in Super Mario Kart and stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so we're doing all of this, but meanwhile, Ivan Ooze has disappeared because he is oozing into the command center so that he can short circuit Alpha 5. He and Zordon bicker like fucking exes. I mean, I get it that they're supposed to be adversaries, but it definitely feels like an enemies to lovers kind of bit where they're like, you put me in the ground for 6,000 years and I'm here to fuck you. What?
And we will hear 6,000 years a lot in this.
Yeah.
He does not let us forget.
No. I will say, I love this idea that he's been in the ground like 6,000 years. That's the entirety of human existence times 3. And yet his quip, and this is how you know that this is a gay villain, he laments missing the Brady Bunch reunion.
Yes.
How does that work exactly? You're getting like television reception down in the egg?
This was something really funny. Roger Ebert gave this a 0.5 star out of 4 in his review, and he was quibbling with a lot of the logic, specifically about how it's weird that Ivan Ooze speaks English despite being around 6,000 years ago. And I'm like, that's not the kind of...
You gotta let that shit go.
Yeah, this Brady Bunch reunion line was apparently an ad-lib by Freeman, and the director liked it so much that he was like, we have to keep that to the movie.
I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
It is funny.
It is, yeah.
Okay, we moved the fight to an underground parking lot, and, we're getting all sorts of fun stuff like slow-mo, wire-fu, as you said, Trace, one-liners. The boxing bell sound effect was an interesting choice. Like, basically, whenever we knock out one of the ooze men or bash them against a wall so they turn back into ooze, you get a kind of KO sound effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, because in a lot of ways, the fight scenes specifically feel like a live-action cartoon.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Or a video game as well. It kind of feels
Yes.
90s video game.
Well, and that's interesting because this is also coming out. So where kids are obsessed with fighting in Power Rangers, teens are obsessed with fighting in Mortal Kombat. And what do we get but 2 months after this? The Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
If I had to pick one or the other, I feel like I might gravitate towards MK. Yeah.
Also has a banging soundtrack.
It definitely does. Yeah, folks, you can actually hear us talk more about that because we do have a Patreon audio commentary on Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, this fight has actually just been one big distraction for Ivan Ooze to steal the power, or to at least temporarily knock out Zordon. So the Rangers lose power and their suits disappear. And when they hoof it on foot back to the command center, they find it in...
Where is this? How has no one found this place?
Not even bikes. Like, we don't even need to skateboard or rollerblade over there. We saw them rollerblade earlier. They could have just said, everybody, but get your skates on and let's go to the command center.
They walked from this construction site to the command center, scaling rocky mountainous cliffs, mind you.
I mean, maybe Zordon nearly died because he's been waiting 3 weeks for them to arrive.
Yeah, there was actually a significant time jump there. Yeah,
Real bad at transitions, except for Star Wipes later on.
Wouldn't that be funny if there was like a little time, it just said 3 weeks later and they could just cut to them climbing the rocks?
No food or water, but we're here, Zordon. God, I'd give anything for that pizza place that's attached to the boxing gym. So.
Yeah.
They couldn't get one of their parents to get in the ride because their parents don't exist.
Exactly. Well, I mean, true YA fashion. We've got one fucking adult in this entire movie, and then the sexual predator whose face appears in the giant hologram thing. Okay, so we get to the command center. It has been thoroughly destroyed. Zordon is on the brink of death, and Alpha 5 says, okay, there's one opportunity to save him, so you have to go to the distant planet of Phaedos and recover capital T, capital P, the power before Zordon croaks.
The great power. How dare you?
Oh, sorry. Yes. How could I be so mistaken? I feel like half the joy of this episode is me getting to say things like, what is it? Octo something.
Oh my god, the ectomorphicons.
Ectomorphicon? Like
Oh
me, a 43-year-old man talking about ectomorphicon.
I never knew that they had names. Because ooze does give them names in the movie. I just never heard that. But like
Really?
Scorpitron and oh my god, I think it's the
Waspinator?
Hornetron. The Hornetron, which I always thought was an ant.
Oh, I thought it was a wasp.
I thought it was an ant as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Scorpitron and Hornetor.
Hornetor.
Oh my god. I think I've seen that Halloween costume a few times. Okay, yes. So before we head over to Phaedos, let's check in with our villain. So they are on Rita's moon hideout, and he doesn't like the tone of her sass. So yes, we imprison her and Lord Zed in a snow globe. Ooze demands obedience from Mordant as well as Goldar, and then he hawks a loogie that turns into Tengu warriors. These are purple birds that he sends to kill the Rangers, and then he moves them into a chemical factory so that we can mass produce ooze.
I will say, I same with the ooze monsters. I actually do like that these are just people in suits.
Sure.
I mean, that goes in the spirit of the show, and I just think that this looks so much better than the
oh my god,
effects we will get in the third act of this film.
Oh god, definitely.
Woof. I mean, we have all had conversations on our respective podcasts, probably with our friends, about the state of CGI in the mid-90s, but this, it's a whole new level of garbaggio.
Yeah.
It's also the thing where it's like, okay, you're rushing to get this made, and apparently in that producer's blog post, he was like, this is a time when like actual like CGI was very, very, very new. So when he said we're going to do CGI, no one really knew what that was going to look like. Yeah. So no one could say, no one had a reference point to say, oh, is it going to look like that piece of shit over there, or is it going to look like this over here? It was just, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I guess maybe it was going to be quicker. I can't imagine that, but who knows?
Oh my god. And then they have to get into the room and see what it looks like, and you just hear everybody going, ay, 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 ay.
But Mike, do you remember these looking this bad when you were a kid, though? Like, I feel like when I was a kid, I was like, that looks so cool!
Sure.
I think I thought in the mid-90s that was like a cool new way of doing it. Yeah, and because in the TV show, the sort of kaiju monsters and the robots were just people in suits, right? People in rubber suits.
They were always miniatures,
Yeah, always falling on buildings and destroying like whole like tower blocks full of people. There was a lot of collateral damage.
It's basically Godzilla for children.
Right, exactly, yeah. But yeah, I think I thought it by like 8-year-old brain that this was really cool, this CGI, but my god. And there's a moment when they make a joke about, they reference Jurassic Park, don't they? And it's like, don't remind us of how good Jurassic Park looks.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think also, because I mean, like Toy Story was going to come out later this year, so we hadn't even yet gotten like a fully CGI animated feature-length film, and so there wasn't really much to compare it to. But yeah, this, I mean, like, oh God, this is bad.
It's very bad. It reminded me a little bit. I'm not sure if you folks got this in your respective countries, but here in Canada, we had an animated TV show called Reboot, which is set in the world of like computers. And it kind of has a similar CGI look to that. But like that show was deliberately stylized, intentionally so. And this feels like a bad screensaver version of it.
Yes.
100%.
I thought about Reboot a lot whilst watching this last night.
Okay.
It's true. It really reminded me of that. Yeah.
Sidebar, Reboot. Very fun show.
Great show.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Phaedos, everybody, which definitely just looks like a rocky Australian coast. And the teens are being observed by Obi-Wan no, it's just a robe figure who definitely bears no resemblance to Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original Star Wars. We have a little bit of Tommy hitting on Kimberly, but she's so upset that the sexual predator who has been grooming them for years may be dying. She just can't process it.
But that's the thing, though, right? Like, she's one of the only people to really show emotion outside of the scenes in the command center. Although, I will say, I do have a soft spot for Adam, the Black Ranger. I don't know. I like Bosch. I find him more charismatic than Tommy, personally.
Yeah, and there's that one funny moment when he gets made the frog and he looks really sad about it. And that's like the most he gets to do in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was one thing my mom really liked about this movie. She always thought it was really funny that he didn't want to be the frog.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas when you look at, fully half of these animal spirits that we're doing, the sacred animals, we'll call them, half of them are pretty fucking good. Like, you've got a wolf, you've got an ape, you've got other things. And then the other half is like, you get to be a swan. You get to be a frog. And it's like, what the fuck? Why did I draw this short straw?
But see, Kimberly at least gets to fly in that fucking crane. Like,
Sure.
But I will say, though, that frog tongue power is neat.
Oh, I liked it. Yeah. And also the sound effect of it croaking is very funny to me. Okay. So, yes, we have to battle these Tengu warriors. Kimberly needs to be rescued because she's being airlifted away by one of them. But this is when Dulcea arrives, played by Gabrielle Fitzpatrick, having recovered from her surgery.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like this. Sometimes it feels like it belongs in a completely different movie, but she looks great. She's actually very convincing. It looks like she belongs in the world in terms of like the ridiculous costuming, but I like her whistling staff thing.
Yeah, I like this. It goes much more like Star Wars or something here, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't feel like Power Rangers, but it's quite nice. It feels more like a movie, you know?
Yeah.
I would actually say it reminded me, and I think this is before Xena and Hercules.
I was going to say Xena, right? Because I know you mentioned Barbarella. I was like, this, I didn't watch Xena, but this costume looks more Xena-y.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, it's super weird to have an adult dressed in this, frankly, pretty provocative outfit, and all of these kids be like, oh yeah, cool, just teach me your way.
Well, and also, Joe, you're right. Xena premieres, by the way, like 2 or 3 months after this movie comes to theaters.
Okay.
But yeah, and it's weird because this character does not come back. Like, this is the only Power Rangers property that this character is in. And I remember even as a kid being kind of bummed, like, we don't get to see her again later in the film. Like, it is just
it's
this
a
portion.
total cop-out. It's like, I'm going to set you on your way as a wise elder, and then I'm just going to take owl form and fuck out of this movie.
A hot wise elder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, 8-year-old me was very much into this woman when I watched it.
Oh, you would be.
Meanwhile, the girls and the gays get fucking wrinkly-ass Zordon.
Yeah, like, cool. Where's my glass of prune juice while you're at it? God. Okay, so she's about to beat the shit out of these kids, you know, as adults are apt to do in this movie, when they name drop Zordon, and she's like, oh my god, yeah, let me take you to the great power. I'm going to point you in the direction of this fucking monolith, which looks, again, like 3 weeks journey away on foot, but I'm sure you'll be fine. And this is also where the movie starts to cross-cut very heavily. So we're getting a brief scene on Phaedos, and then we're back to this chemical factory or checking in with whatever's going on in Angel Grove. So it's like 1 and 1 and 1 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
So back on Earth, we've got Ivan, who is now dressed as some kind of carnival wizard. This is my favorite look of his in the film. A amazing.
He starts doing rhymes too, which
It's
I was like,
all rhymes, and I fucking loved it.
So then I was like, is he pulling from Warwick Davis's Leprechaun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We always talk about these epic versus battle films that we want to see between horror icons, right? Ivan Ooze versus Leprechaun.
I'd watch
They
that.
just pun each other to death.
Yes.
It's an even match.
Yeah. So, yes, he is rhyming his way into giving away these bottles of ooze. P.S. If they didn't do some kind of collectible ooze that you could buy as a product placement, like as a toy, these people, like all the marketing team deserves to be fired from this movie.
Do you remember they had something like this, Mike?
I don't, but it's that feels so obvious, though, right? They should have.
Well, but because I was trying to think, I was like, but because even as a kid when I was watching this, I guess as a kid I probably would have been impressed by the ooze, but as an adult I'm kind of like, it's just fucking purple goo. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
But then you're forgetting. Well, I'm forgetting. Nickelodeon made their case off of slime and like selling slime and goo, and then there was that phase. I want to say like 5 to 6 years ago where like kids were on TikTok like making slime with their parents, and so
Sure.
slime, even though it does nothing, is really popular with kids.
Slime is amazing because it feels like you're being given permission to make a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I loved it. I had some, not Ivan Ooze one, like branded one, but I definitely remember like tubs of slime were a real thing, you know? And like you say, there's nothing you can really do with it. I don't know why it was a thing, but yeah.
It's just gross. But it's like between this and then I think they had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles tie-in where you could get like canisters of the ooze in that too. We loved ooze. What can we say?
Yeah.
Simpler times. Okay, so he is mass producing this with the intention of turning the adults of Angel Grove into obedient zombies. And this, of course, includes Fred's father, setting Fred up to be the hero that Angel Grove needs. And dear Lord, I wish that every one of these kids in the monorail had have just perished.
I do like the shot, because again, I don't think this movie's directed pretty well. There's not a lot of cool shots in this movie, but I do like the reveal when Fred's dad walks into the street and it's just like peppered with all these adults, like these zombified adults just walking, and it's cool. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a kid watching this, it's actually very real, like the reaction that the kids have where they're all partying because, of course, the parents are gone, they're not being supervised, they can do what they want, but then also this inherent danger of, okay, but it's only fun up to a point, and then I need the parents to come back so that they can be the adults. Like,
right.
I don't want to have to fend for myself. I don't want to have to rescue them.
Well, I also like the incident because when we get the we're in trouble scene later, it's like these kids have like overrun this bar type thing, and there's no one there. There's no adults there. So this movie posits that the only adults in Angel Grove are parents.
Yeah. Which terrifying. There's no single people. There's like
so true.
And all of them really wanted to touch this ooze, apparently.
Oh, naturally. Yeah. I mean, you see a can of ooze, you're going to stick your fingers in it because what is this, Cronenberg?
I do like that Mr. Kellman smells it before he gets zapped.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
As you do.
But wait. How does Ivan get his own commercial?
Yeah.
He just buys the airtime. He's got the money. Maybe. No, I was going to speculate that maybe what he does is after he turns them into zombies, then he just goes around and steals all their money. But I realized that that's the wrong order. He would need to have the money to make the commercial to then send it out. But I don't know. Oh, here's the thing. Maybe what he's doing is he's using Jim Carrey's The Box from Batman Forever, which comes out this exact same fucking year.
Oh my God. The same month, Joe. This comes out 2 weeks after Batman Forever.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's literally why we covered the two of them.
That is wild.
Great year for oozy, over-the-top cartoon villains.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so back on Phaedos, we have Dulcea ordering the Rangers to draw upon the power of the Ninjetti and tap into their sacred animals. So we have Aisha is the bear, Rocky is the ape, Billy is the wolf, Kimberly is the crane, snooze, Adam is the frog, and Tommy is the falcon.
Oh, right.
Which I'm just like, how many children know what a falcon is?
Well, I did when I got that
You will
toy.
know. Yeah, you will now, so.
But that's the thing. Like, Tommy's got these weapons. What does Kimberly's crane have? Like, it just flies,
It just flies. Yeah.
And why is it that Tommy automatically always gets the coolest one as well?
Well, he's the leader. He's the leader.
I'm telling you, yes. It's because he is the coolest and the most powerful. You're just like, I guess.
I maintain Frog's the coolest. I think most useless, or I think the ape and the bear are kind of boring.
Well, so they feel interchangeable, which doesn't help my case that all of these kids could just be swapped out, or we could cut out half of them and you wouldn't even notice.
Well, the kids would, but you're right.
Well, yes. Union now! Okay, so tapping into this power just turns them into ninjas, which I was so perplexed by. I literally stopped the film and sent Trace a message, because I was like, how does tapping into their animal power turn them into ninjas? ?
And change their clothes.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the difference between? So they've got them in normal clothes fighting, then you've got them in their ninja clothes, and then you've got them in their Power Rangers suits, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Truthfully, the ninja outfits just seem to be like, okay, when we need to swap them out for stunt doubles during the fight scenes, it's going to be a lot easier.
Right. Yeah.
And also to sell Halloween costumes in a couple of months after the movie is released.
So true. Yeah.
Because you could do suits, and then you could do ninja suits.
Yeah, that's true. Although I can't imagine any kid would pick the Ninjetti suit over the Power Ranger suit.
Right.
Maybe. I can't remember. We can see their faces in the Ninjetti suits, though, right?
Well, so you can, but when they start fighting, they cover from their nose down, so you can see their eyes.
Sure, yeah. All the better to disguise, as you suggested. But I wonder if it's just like, I remember when I was young, my mom was always like, okay, we need Halloween costumes that will work in case it gets cold. So you need to be able to either layer it or put a jacket over top of it without ruining whatever it's meant to be. But also, she was really uncomfortable with things like masks because it restricts visibility and you're out walking around. So I was always very cognizant of like, oh, this costume could be turned into something for Halloween for kids, but if it has something that covers the face, I feel like parents are a little more reticent towards it. So I wondered if the Ninjetti was just like, here's an option where you don't have to cover your face, but you could still be a Power Ranger.
Oh my God, man. But those Power Rangers were all over the streets on Halloween in 93, 94, 95.
Of course. Yeah. Because then you could do the pose and you could do the whoosh sound effects.
That was me. That was little 8-year-old Mike as the White Ranger. I was having a great time.
So, wait, so did you have a costume?
I did. I had the full costume. Yeah.
Amazing.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Wait, Mike, do you have a picture?
Oh, I'll have to find one. I must have somewhere for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you can get it by the time we promote the episode, that'd be get it by next week.
Yeah. Okay.
I definitely had a Power Rangers birthday party where I had the Green Ranger come, and I remember it was the first time where I really questioned if this was really the Green Ranger in the suit. Like,
oh, okay.
Because I was 6, I was like, I remember he was like, look, it's Tommy. And I was like, you don't sound like Tommy, because that's not what the ADR sounds like.
Yeah.
Wait, you sound like that male stripper that my mom got that one time.
Yes, my mother, famed connoisseur of male strippers.
I mean, it is Texas, so I just had to assume. Okay, so now that they've got this halfway baby step towards getting their powers back, Delcia's like, cool, can't leave this area without turning into an old crone and or dust, so I'm just going to turn into an owl and peace out. Bye!
Kimberly's like, an old crane? Huh?
Oh no, I'm so sad. Both of my heroes are dying. Yes, Kimberly, everybody who gets old dies. Okay, back on Earth, we've got the parents being put to work digging up the ectomorphicons, and Ooze distracts himself by forcing a fat man to dance. This is a thing that happens in this movie.
He's really upset because he doesn't like the first dance he does, and so he makes him do the swim, because again, he knows what that is.
Yes.
Right.
Famous dance from 6,000 years ago. The swim.
Do the swim.
This is when the Tengu warriors return to deliver the bad news that Delcia interrupted their plans of killing the Power Rangers, so Ivan just blows them all up. And I will admit I laughed at just an explosion of feathers.
Yeah. Yes. Also, when a pile of feathers just like lands on Ivan's face when he's mid-speech.
Yeah. This is what I signed up for, huh? 4 hours in the makeup chair and chicken feathers. So it's time for the kids to battle a triceratops skeleton in the jungle. Tommy gets to save everybody, but most specifically Kimberly and also Aisha, because, girls can be Power Rangers, but also useless.
I do I think this scene's really fun, but I agree. The Tommy saving them all. Also, he saves them just by pulling a bone out of this thing's neck, which is real dumb. Like, this reeks of, we got to shoot this. We don't know how to end it, so pull a bone out and bam. But
yeah,
this is tense. This is tense.
It's not bad. I was gonna ask you folks if you had a kind of favorite fight scene. Not including the climax, which obviously doesn't actually feature any human beings in it, but I think that this one isn't as good as the rock one that we're about to get.
I think the rock one is a better fight scene, isn't it? I think, in terms of the actual fighting. I think I quite liked this dinosaur thing just because I was a Jurassic Park kid and I just thought this dinosaur sequence was cool, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think my favorite scene is just the fight scene is the ooze men. I think this film peaks early with its fighting, if only because it's the first time in the movie that they morph. And again, when the Morphin score kicks in, I mean, it is. They know how Power Rangers. They know how powerful. Even in the 2017 film, they use that song when they get in their Zords for the first time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I feel like we don't live in an age anymore where children's media has the same kind. Well, actually, you know what? Maybe I'm completely wrong because I don't watch a ton of it anymore. But it felt like in this era, like late 80s into early 90s, part of your children's entertainment was to have a super catchy theme song.
Yeah. And also with these fight scenes too, I mean, to your point about the soundtrack earlier, Joe, the ooze fight scene is the only one that has a song. These other two ones here all incorporate the score, which
just score. Yeah.
I do like the score for this film. I think it's very it's very bombastic when it needs to be, but it's not as memorable as Action Boy Now.
Truly, an earworm for the ages. All right, so back on Earth, the Ectomorphicons have now been assembled. I was disappointed that there's only 2 of them. I didn't realize they were going to be so big, but I thought that there was going to be one for each of the Rangers. So I was a little disappointed with this reveal.
Yeah, that would have made sense, actually. From a story standpoint, probably not from an effects budget standpoint.
No. These things definitely broke the bank. They're entirely CGI. They look very shiny. They look very 1995.
I mean, yeah.
They look like shit, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if Roger Rabbit was instead of in a 2D animated world, if they were in like a CGI animated world, but it was like shitty CGI. This just looks like you have like a cartoon in this movie.
Yes, it's real. Yeah. It's real bad, especially when Ivan Ooze becomes a CGI.
Oh my god, I love that so much because it looks so bad.
It looks so bad.
And everyone like the closest comparison I can make for this, because if you have not seen this movie, is actually the CGI in the third act of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the second Mortal Kombat movie. That would come out 2 years after this, but it looks exactly the same quality.
Yes. Famously also rushed, right? So I think part of what we're seeing is, I don't know. I'd love to give this production a little bit of grace or generosity and say maybe they wanted it to look better, but they just ran out of time or they were constrained by the budget and so on. But I think some of this is, well, we're making this for 6-year-olds, and 6-year-old Mike Muncer didn't have a problem with this. He thought it was actually pretty cool. Yeah. So everybody else, shut the fuck up.
Well, I also wonder, so generally speaking for movies, I'm sure they have a general, hey, this is how long it's going to take to do the pre-production, the production, the post-production of this movie. I mean, let's say post-production actually, because it's CGI. And right. I wonder if because it was so new, they didn't realize how much longer they would need to extend post-production to make these effects look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, entirely possible.
It's a little lawnmower man as well, isn't it?
Boy,
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Which I believe I've still never seen, but I believe Joe, you said you wanted to cover that before, right?
Oh, I fucking love Lawnmower Man. I unabashedly, unequivocally, not a good movie, but I think it's a highly entertaining film. Jeff Fahey is hot.
Oh, he's great, isn't he? And it's Pierce Brosnan too, right? I think
it is. Yeah.
I think the last time we three spoke was when you came on my podcast to discuss Anaconda, and
yes.
That CGI is positively, Oscar winning compared to this stuff, isn't it?
I think that's why. When people shit on Anaconda CGI, I'm like, y'all, for 1997, this looks fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I think the budget for that was so much more, right? Because we always famously talk about how expensive it was to render that.
Right.
And that's why they use so little of it.
I would also say, I mean, like, I've done research into the production of Anaconda. Like, those people making that movie, they weren't like, oh, we're making this stupid snake movie, let's put it out. People really cared about making a quality movie on that film.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Still a banger.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute banger.
Okay. So, yes, ectomorphicons, they've been assembled. The parents now no longer have a use, so Ivan Ooze orders them to die by suicide at the construction site. And then we fill up these giant robot kaijus with ooze, and Ivan Ooze zaps them alive. So, yes, CGI for the rest of the film for these things.
Ivan also does a lot of, pop culture references that no kid would ever understand. But, like,
No.
we do a fucking, like, Apocalypse Now reference where instead of I love the smell of napalm in the morning, he says, I love the smell of destruction in the evening. And that's not even clever.
No.
It feels like you missed the point.
Yeah. This was written in 5 minutes, wasn't it? Oh my God.
It was breaks of making the television show. They were on the set where they were doing all the karate, and the crew was just like, okay, let's grab a slice of pizza from, Hormone High here and pump out the script. We've got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, and even like when the ectomorphicons first attacked the Angel Grove, the boys are back in town.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, boy.
Why? All right, so back on Phaedos, the kids finally reach the base of the monolith, and in their ninjetti costumes, they have to battle these guards made of stone. And I think part of the reason that I like this is we do actually allow people who don't have the names of either Kimberly or Tommy actually get to do something. And I mean, I will confess, it's of course Tommy who still gets to finish off the last one with this patented corkscrew kick, which looks impressive and is completely unrealistic in terms of, I don't know, like physics and other stuff. But I like that, Adam gets to save Rocky by kicking one guard into the water. We've got Kimberly and Tommy rocking the world of another one by causing a landslide. Like, everybody kind of feels like they have something to do.
And I guess the setting is a bit more exciting than the construction site, too. Even thinking about the character archetypes here. So, like, it's, you're going to laugh, Joe, and maybe Mike, too. It's almost Scooby-Doo-ish, where Tommy is the Fred, Kimberly is Daphne, Billy is Velma, and who's the other one? Oh my
God.
the
rest of them are Shaggy.
Oh yeah, Shaggy. Yeah, the rest of them are Shaggy.
Yeah.
We are also here.
I think it's the red one, right? Rocky, who is the most non-entity out of all of them as well.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you a single thing he does or says throughout the movie.
Well, and I think it's an issue because before Tommy joined the crew, Jason, the Red Ranger, was the leader of the group. And so when Tommy came in and became the White Ranger, this is when the other three leave. And so we have a Red Ranger who's not the leader anymore. And so I think because, for the others, okay, yeah, new Yellow Ranger, cool, replace the Yellow Ranger. But they don't have different roles. Whereas now we have a Red Ranger who's not the leader. So it's like, what do we do with him? I don't think they know what to do.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we're aiming for diverse casting. We're going for not quite gender parity, but it feels deliberate in terms of let's make sure that we're representing a variety of different potential audience members. So I liked that fact, but just as somebody who is that additional couple of steps removed, I just looked at this group and thought, you could get away with 3 or 4 Rangers. You don't need 6 because you clearly don't have an interest in doing anything unique for any of them.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't even know if that happened on the show, to be honest.
I guess it's part of the reason the show has lasted so long too, is that the actors are so replaceable, right? They just cycle through actors because they are the least important part of this show. It's just whoever happens to fill that suit in any given season of the show, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, which really does. I mean, I know I made a union joke earlier, but the reality is that it would be tough to go onto this set and say, okay, I feel like I have any kind of stability or permanence because, if you cause a fuss, if you make waves about the terrible working conditions as a child, they're just going to say, cool, I'm going to go to the mall. I'm going to pick another child. I'm going to activate Zordon mode, go to the mall, pick a kid out of the mix and just put them into the suit, and you're fired.
And so that's because I actually saw this relatively recently. So Tui Trang, who played Trini and sadly also passed away in 2001 as a car accident, but the original Yellow Ranger, there was a story that came out a while ago, or maybe it was like republished, where they were doing some kind of Comic-Con type like convention somewhere. Mm-hmm. And she, when they were all up there, said something about how like they don't treat us well. Like it would be nice if they did, like they paid us more, blah blah blah, paid us for our dues. And it was shortly after that they were booted from the show,
fired.
Yeah.
I mean, not surprising.
And Amy Jo Johnson has come out since then, like saying, like, I think looking back, I wonder if the rest of us had stood by them when they said that they wanted these things, if we would have gotten it. Or I think our fear was that they would just replace all of us because of what we were going through at the time.
Yeah. It's not like the Friends cast sticking together and saying we all get $1 million paycheck, right? It's like, oh, you're all teenagers. Do you know how many teenagers would like to take your spot?
Totally. And they were just treated so badly. I think Amy Jo Johnson also got really injured once on set for this as well, right?
Yes. She was almost electrocuted once, for sure.
Oh, God.
Not necessarily this film, but like the show for sure, because she eventually left in the middle of season 3. And then, again, I haven't seen Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, but now I want to because of Diva Talks, because what the hell, man?
That name alone.
I know. But I know that like by that point they had a new Pink Ranger and Cat, but then like Kimberly comes in, so it was like a big deal at the time where it's like, oh, we have like both the old and the new Pink Ranger in one movie together.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have discovered the monolith, and the ground shakes, the door opens. Here's the great power. It's got the insignia of all of these sacred animals. Lights zap out. These are going to be our new Zords. And everybody transforms into the Rangers once again, so we can head back to Earth. And Dulcea, who, P.S., will never appear in human form again. It's just this fucking owl hanging around, wishes them luck. But only in voiceover.
Good luck, Rangers.
Yep. And goodbye forever.
Goodbye, Hedwig.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Meanwhile, on Earth, we're in trouble.
Indeed. Yeah, we've got the ectomorphicons destroying the downtown, which amounts to maybe one or two cars getting crashed. And so the Rangers decide that they're going to ninja Zord up, and this is when basically we just get all of these new Zords, and they're very exciting. They also kind of look like shitty CGI, but as I said, the frog croak is very funny.
Yeah, I did appreciate Aisha's time to boogie with the bear. I thought that was kind of fun.
Okay.
One of the only memorable things Aisha gets to say in this movie.
Oh my God. Yeah. Is this before or after she gets like bulldozed into a building and then just like hangs out there for a couple of minutes?
Basically. And I mean, I do like, we get to see them kind of like working together to like, 2-on-1. Poor Kimberly is just sitting in the air, and Ivan...
I got zapped.
I'm burning up in here. Ah! And then someone has to tell her, turn on your thrusters, bitch.
Yeah. Like, I appreciate their new Zords, so they don't always know exactly what everything's going to do, except, of course, when they know exactly what a button will do, Aisha, later on.
I like the idea of them reading a manual, like, get the most out of your new Zords,
Right? Yeah. So, you decided to level up your Zord.
Yeah.
Here's a 75-page. Okay, elsewhere in town, we have Fred. Fred is still a character, the shitty kid. He galvanizes all of the partying kids to use the monorail. Why does this town have a monorail? Apparently, we can walk to the command center, so it's clearly not the biggest place. But I was just like, oh my God, is this The Simpsons? Like, I wanted the monorail man to just show up and be like, hey kids, get on the monorail.
I mean, I have more of a question about how this Falcon can like perfectly fit the missing chunk of the monorail and also not derail the monorail.
That was the thing I most wanted to see. Is like, Tommy just parks this fucking Falcon over the destroyed track, and then we just watch the monorail pitch off of it and into the street and explode.
It was in the manual. It said, does work as a substitute for missing train tracks.
Yeah, for a bridge. Yeah.
Appendix B in the event of a monorail track. Oh, it's so stupid. But yeah, okay. So the kids are safe and they get to where they need to go. We've got this scorpion ectomorphicon that gets destroyed. Tommy is, of course,
Joe. It's
no,
like
I will not be using the technical name for it.
Scorpitron.
No. Did you say stupidtron? Yeah, Kimberly gets caught in Ivan's tractor beam. It's all very obvious. We managed, because we're down one ectomorphicon, that means everybody can sort of slowly creep towards the other one. So yes, Mike, this is the moment you were alluding to earlier when Ivan Ooze stretches himself down.
Wait. I'm sorry. I do love the sound effect, though. So whenever it's just the one left, which I think is the Hornator,
Stop it.
It turns towards Ivan and therefore the camera and starts whimpering like a cartoon dog.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I'm about to die. Do something, Daddy.
But yes.
Yeah, so Ivan possesses this thing with a very wonky CGI face, but then I don't know if we sold Ivan Ooze as a queer icon hard enough. But when he rips down this tower that he and Goldar were standing on, he uses the line, "Time for a little sword play."
Oh my God,
sir.
And here's the thing, to me, Ivan Ooze is just a big drag queen. That is what Ivan Ooze is this. And to the point where I'm a little surprised, and maybe we have, if we haven't, I'm surprised that we haven't gotten some kind of Ivan Ooze-y, runway drag on Drag Race.
Right, yeah. I'm surprised that we haven't gotten this meets Ursula from The Little Mermaid, because it feels like, you know what, the two of them could be Lavender Marriage style villains where they're just like, yeah, we're definitely married and we're definitely not porking anybody else on the side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the battle continues because now Ivan Ooze is into the mix and he's much more formidable. So we also have to save these parents because they have almost reached the cliff. So this is where Fred recruits... Sorry, you want me to say it Bulk and Skull instead of Skull and Bulk?
Yes,
is that correct?
Bulk and Skull. It's never Skull and Bulk.
Got it. Bulk and Skull. So the three of them, we've got the kids working to hold all these adults back, but then we use a water cannon.
Okay, Carrie told me this would kill somebody, and this does not kill any. This should at least be ripping the skin off of the people he's hitting in the face with this hose.
Yeah. So folks, if you have not seen this, it's like this army of zombified parents walking towards this cliff with their prepubescent children pushing against them to try to stop them from moving forward. And then Fred comes up on this construction lift with a, basically water cannon. And he is hitting the children in the back to prevent them from moving towards the edge of the cliff, which I'm like, okay, I admire the tenacity, but you are fully knocking out or killing these children, and then the adults are just plummeting over.
Yes.
He's also making the ground, because their ground they're standing on is dirt, and so he's turning into mud, which is therefore going to make it much easier for the parents to slide their feet across this dirt.
Yeah. It's, as you said, Mike, written in 5 minutes
For sure.
and clearly fact-checked.
Yeah, it's it gets to the point where it's okay, we just need to wrap this up now. Save these parents, get this done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, though, I as a kid was like, oh my God, don't kill the parents.
The danger. Mr. Fred, father. Yes. God damn it. Okay, so the solution. Billy's one contribution to this entire fucking movie.
Right? He's the smart one, and he has one thing to do.
Just one solid contribution. So he proposes that they use Ryan's Comet that is coming in, because remember how we front-loaded the film by saying it's showing up in 2 days? Well, it's 2 days later.
Chekhov's Comet is coming, yeah.
Literally that, yes. Yeah, so what we got to do is just get Ivan into the path of this comet, and they both go explode. So to do that, though, we're going to go Ninja Megazoid mode, and then we fly into space, because that's something we can just do. Ivan follows us out. We become intertwined, and at the designated moment, Aisha hits a button that has no label and only has one function, which is the Ninja Megazoid knees Ivan in the balls, and I don't know why this would do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the Horninator or the Horninator, whatever, like, does it have a set of balls that would be injured if it got kneed?
No, but maybe the insinuation is that when Ivan filled it up with his own ooze, he made an ooze wiener.
Like ooze testicles?
Yeah, I guess.
Ooze balls? Yeah.
Also, calling back to that PSA, have you hugged your Zords today?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So stupid.
Again, who is that for?
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah. Okay, so getting nailed in the balls apparently is enough to separate them, so they break free of one another. Ivan ends up exactly where we need him to be, and both the comet and he explode, which removes the influence he has over all of Angel Grove's adults, so yay, disaster avoided.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we head back down to the command center because now we've got the power, capital T, capital P. Sorry, the great power. And it's time to go and save Zordon. Except, oh no, this little Eraserhead amoeba has croaked in this rebuilt center. By the way, I love that the power that gets used to reanimate Zordon also repairs everything in this command center, but it's just us running the film backwards.
Yes.
Which, I actually do like that, though, because that feels very 80s to me. Like, I think about the ending of Critters, how we put that house back together, and it's clearly just, like, reversing the footage. Like, at least this isn't CGI.
Truly, yeah. And I think if you're a kid and you don't know, this looks fun and believable. You're going to be like, oh, wow, magic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Yeah, okay, so Zordon, the other thing that we needed to do was all clasp hands, because, you know, it's all about unity. It's about the power of the group. So this brings back him, brings back the command center. We get this operatic music. Zordon is healed, so we get the disembodied head going back up behind the shield. And everybody is, like, super happy, but mostly we just focus on Kimberly because she's crying.
Because she's probably the only one that could cry on cue.
Right.
Yeah.
Focusing on the one who actually has acting talent.
Focusing on the actor, quick.
I think Adam has teary eyes, I think.
Yes.
Right, yes. Notice how much we've mentioned anything about Adam this entire recording.
Again,
folks.
Adam, Aisha, Rocky, like, and again, those are the new ones. Like, that's the
nada.
So
Yeah.
poor thing for these poor actors.
Yeah.
I would say, oh, well, they got to be in a movie, so that's pretty cool. But I guess, I mean, it also sounds like shitty working conditions that they weren't being paid very well for. So maybe not.
Yeah, I would love to know what their pay was for the movie.
They got an all expenses paid trip to Australia.
God, yeah. They must have got a substantial fee for the movie, right? Surely. I don't know.
You'd think it'd have to be a pay bump on top of what they
Yeah.
were making for the show, right? Like, it'd have to be better money than what they were making for the show.
No, they got room and board. I bet that's what it was.
Oh my God. You got to pet the Dulcea owl in between takes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we wrap up this movie with snaps the power because, you know, the power. It's what the whole movie was fucking about. But the town is celebrating over a feast. We've got the Rangers reminding Fred that anything is possible. He could become a Power Ranger one day. I said, or he could become, I don't know,
Dead.
unemployed. He could become like a single father, like your father, because you drove your mother away because you were a shitty kid. Anyway, he's very excited. Yay! And then everybody watches as the fireworks shoot up into the sky, and then we get some credits, and the movie is over.
So, fun final fact of production about this particular scene is that, you know,
the fireworks are CGI.
No, they might be. Because that font is just perfect. No. So apparently, like, when they were trying to get like the extras for this movie, they just said, like, they put out like a big public thing that just said, "Come meet the Power Rangers," and
then shot it.
It wasn't advertised as like a film shoot, so they had 8,000 people show up to this.
Wow.
Because Australians like to party.
Yes.
And the funny thing was that when they were filming this movie, the episodes introducing the new Rangers hadn't come out yet. So no one knew who the actors playing Rocky, Aisha, and Adam were.
It's a secret reveal.
No, it just means that they didn't get any attention.
Oh, okay. It's like, who are those three, like, bogans sitting out on the side?
They're doing absolutely nothing.
But also, like, they didn't turn any... They were just like, okay, we just have to make this work with 8,000 people and shoot this scene.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what? This sounds like a production, like the crew of this movie. It sounds like they just rolled with whatever they had to do because it does sound like a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
But that is... I don't even want to say this movie title. It's way too fucking long.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. Like, not the,
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I had fun revisiting this. How did you feel revisiting this after, like, I don't know, when's the last time you saw it?
A long time ago, yeah. I mean...
Did you remember it? That's my question.
I did.
Trace claims he remembered all of the lines.
I don't think I remembered all the lines, but I definitely remembered most of the set pieces. I remembered some of Ivan Ooze's lines. Do you know, it's really hard to separate yourself, isn't it, from the nostalgia of growing up on it? Because I did have a certain amount of fun with it, although I also was watching it thinking, this is real bad. Real bad as well, you know?
It's aggressively not good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'd watch it again.
I mean, you probably will watch it again.
I probably will. Well, I don't have that Scream Factory Blu-ray, y'all, so someone send me that $100 Blu-ray.
Oh my God. Add it to your Amazon wish list.
Yes.
or better yet, don't. Like, let's not give Mr. Bezos more money if we don't need to.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, I mean, that is Power Rangers the movie, everyone. So, closing out Pride Month, by the way. No better film.
Truly, we couldn't have picked a better film to close out Pride Month. And famed Zordon the Groomer.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Why does he live in that weird tube thing anyway?
Well, it's supposed to be something for his age, right? Because, like, Dulcea says, if I step off this thing, I will age as fast as Zordon. So Zordon uses that.
Because he's been around for thousands of years. It's bizarre because Ivan Ooze has been around for presumably the same amount of time, but he has no issues.
Well, but also because, like, whenever Ivan, like, destroys his, like, little tube thing and, like, you know, so the film posits that Zordon's body is always just at the bottom of this tube and there's just, like, his face is being projected onto it.
Yeah, like, what's up with that? Does he not eat? Does he not go to the bathroom? Wait, does Zordon fuck? I need to know.
Think so. Because I think this is the first time we ever saw Zordon as in person. Like, we had only seen him as a face in that tube on the show.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm serious. He looked like a dehydrated grape.
Well, so you want to talk about Raisin Head?
Wow, yeah. This is why I think he and Ivan Ooze were lovers, because they're basically the same thing.
Raisin Heads.
Yeah.
Well, okay, everyone. Before we announce what we're covering next week, Mike, thank you for coming to discuss this movie of all movies. And
really, a movie best suited for your talents, Mike. You know, you have a podcast all about the history of horror movies, so please come and talk to us about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I loved it. It's always nice to talk about something a little bit different. And when else would I have had an excuse to revisit this terrible movie? So
True.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Well, and let everyone know, where can they find you and your work? Online, anywhere.
Yeah, so my podcast is called The Evolution of Horror. You can find it wherever you get your podcast, evolutionofhorror.com. I'm on all the podcast apps and I'm on all the social medias. Well, actually, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but you can find me on all the others wherever you get your social media content. I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. All right, well, then some housekeeping for us before we shut this down. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach us on Blue Sky and Instagram at HorrorQueers. Shoot us an email at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Find us on Letterboxd to keep track of all the films we've covered. If you want to chat with other listeners, join our HorrorQueers Discord, which is new as of May, so link in the show notes. And if you want even more content, please support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/HorrorQueers. If you subscribe today, you will get 397 hours. That's right, nearly 400 hours of Patreon content, including this month's new episodes on Hannibal Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6, Fear Street Prom Queen, Bring Her Back, 28 Years Later, and a brand new audio commentary on Final Destination 2. And even though we're not dropping new content on our requel tier, you can still listen to episode-by-episode recaps of The Last of Us Season 2 if you missed them when we were covering it as the show was airing.
There we go.
Joe.
Mm-hmm.
We've hinted at this a couple times, and some people have picked up on these clues. What are we covering next week?
Yeah, apparently I'm not as clever as I thought with my very obvious references. So, folks, we're kicking off the month of July with a 50th anniversary of a film that has its own iconic theme. So, dun Yeah, I'm not going to do it because you all guessed it's Jaws. We're going to talk about Jaws.
We are going to talk about Jaws, a film that
changed the world.
Changed the world, yeah. Changed movie making as we know it, or movie releases as we know it.
There we go. Yeah, created the idea of a summer blockbuster season.
Yep. But until next week, everyone, we can cross out Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Indeed. And cross out horror queers.